So our project vision is to use a whole new genre of microelectronics and chips to restore sight to the blind. First, to help them get mobility, and then second, to get the high-resolution imagery to enable them to read and recognize faces. This is an incredible challenge because I've been talking about the biology of it, but also the microelectronic chips just simply do not like to be in this sort of an environment, a warm, corrosive, salty environment like your body is the worst that computer chips need to be in. This is the effect of pixelization. When you go from 16 pixels, I know everyone's camera has 4 megapixels, but even 16 pixels and 256 pixels and 1,000 pixels is a huge challenge to get these electrodes and for the brain to start to understand this imagery. And you can see the effect, of course, of increasing pixelization has and the sort of timelines we're looking at. Terry, our patient, has a 16-pixel device, but it's amazing by moving the eye around how much he can get out of it and how much the brain is able to fill in the missing information. And all this information is taken in wirelessly into the implant, which is the blue, and then both power and data are transmitted into the eye to stimulate the nerve cells, the remaining nerve cells in the eye. Recall that inside the eye is the retina, which has these photoreceptors, and these are the photoreceptors that are damaged and we're triggering the remaining neurons. Incredible amount of software development needs to go into this to how to deliver these patterns of stimulation, and then this information sent via the optic nerve to the brain. Why don't we have Terry come up? Yeah, that would be good. And what Terry normally wears is these glasses and this little pager-sized device that hooks up to the implants that I've just shown. So Terry, thanks for coming again, and why don't you come up here? This is Sean Caffey with our group. Yep, Terry. Okay. And okay, you're on stage, Terry, and why don't we start off? I'll give you the microphone here.
All right.
And you know, I just assume that nobody in this audience knows anything about your eye condition. Why don't you start there, and then why don't you tell them about what this device has been able to let you do?
I'll be very glad to. One of the, you might say, little benefits of being blind, because there are really not that many, is if I could see, you would never get me up here. So, without being able to see the faces. But it's really an honor to be here with Dr. Humayun and all of you, because what he's all about is something very important. I want to give you a brief history of my blindness and how it started. I have retinitis pigmentosa. I am almost 58 years old, and at age 37 I was told I was going blind. And I said, anything but that, you know. And I was having some night vision problems. And so I went and got checked out by a couple of specialists, and he said, yes, you have this thing called RP, and that you may have several years of limited vision to go. And as it turned out, it was about, I was diagnosed in 1986 after having night vision problems in 85. And by the end of 1993, I no longer could see. I was sitting in my living room watching TV, and my wife kept saying, you know, look, we can't turn this brightness up any higher, because if it is, we can't see it. And I said, well, it's the only way I can see it. And eventually, all the light went out. And as you can imagine, giving up your career, the fact that you can't see your family and all that, it's a lot of negative stuff going on, depression, anger, and all that. And so I went to the Braille Institute and basically learned how to do things the blind way. And so for the last 13 years, that's what I've been doing. Dr. Humayun was very frank and very honest with me. And he said, now look, he said, I'm not going to tell you a year from now you're going to be able to see this and see that. You're lucky if you can see little pieces of light and be able to differentiate maybe some contrast between light and dark. And I said, okay, well, you know, what have I got to lose, right? So I went ahead and had the surgery. 2 weeks later, the swelling went down, and I began to do a little testing at the Doheny Eye Institute. And little by little, I could start seeing little bits of pieces of light in front of my eyes. So we went on quite a while with a lot of laboratory testing at the Doheny Eye Institute plus the Second Sight complex in Sylmar, California. What happened basically is we started out with very simple tasks. Some of those were to see stationary targets, some were to see things were moving. As time went on, it was very obvious to me that this was going to work, because a lot of the times we started out doing something, it was very much a blob, a blur. We couldn't really make out what it was, and they said, well, you just need to have patience and keep working at it, and it'll probably work out. So little by little, the success started coming in some of these tests. And that proved to me one very important thing that Dr. Humayun was hoping would happen, was that the brain, along with all the equipment that they had implanted in my head, the brain was beginning to relearn to see again in a very basic way. Well, when I got to take the camera and glasses home, like I said, I haven't seen anything in so many years. To be able to see little pieces of light, movement, and all that are one thing. Well, one day I had the glasses and camera home, and I have an 18-year-old son, and I asked 5 of his friends to line up and walk across the sidewalk in front of the driveway where I was standing. And I was able to see from about 6 feet away. I was actually able to see them walk in front of me, about 3 feet apart, and what it looks like is a moving silhouette. Now, you can imagine, I thought I'd never see the day that I'd never see my son in any fashion or way, and be able to see him in even a silhouette form was just overwhelming to me. I mean, it was just awesome. As time went on, the upgrade kept getting better and better in the VPU, so I was able to see the edges of things.
Oh, thanks. Thank you, Terry. And you know, I really appreciate you coming here. And the point that most of the audience doesn't realize, that we have a lot of team members, but our patients are very much part of our team, and we couldn't have done it without them. I mean, who would have had any surgery, leave alone a long surgery, with no idea whether they'd be able to see or not? So I really appreciate it. And again, thank you for the council for this opportunity to speak to you.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. Good job. Okay, we can walk over.
Thank you, Terry. I'm right here. That was terrific.
Thank you. Thank you.